Here you go. You can just.
Tafaday, and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for today's press conference to announce the eligibility requirements for Prugraman Salappe. At this time, I'd like to recognize the following, of course, our Honorable Governor, Lou Leon Guerrero, as well as our Lieutenant Governor, Josh Tenorio. Joining them on the panel today is Department of Administration Director, Edward Byrne, as well as Department of Administration Deputy Director, Bernadine Guinness. I now want to give the floor to Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio for his opening remarks.
Thank you, Crystal. Let me just ask everybody's indulgence as I, earlier today, our administration celebrated funeral mass for Ray Tapasnia, who was our director of the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority. And I wanted to mention Ray because his career, definitely in recent years, has been focused on addressing the needs of the common people, those that need help. And I wanted to, on behalf of the governor, of course, continue this period of mourning that we are experiencing, and of course, give our love to Audrey, his wife, and of course, his children and parents. But it's in that spirit, ladies and gentlemen, that we come today. Gas prices and the cost of living have escalated in these last few weeks. People are now second guessing their daily routine, making decisions about taking kids to school, how many times they'll go shopping, how many times they're going to be visiting loved ones. They're feeling the pinch in their paychecks and in their pocketbooks. And so we're here to help and responding to the needs of the community and expanding the number of people that can be helped is the reason we're here today. So I'd like to introduce Governor Lou Leon Guerrero so she can talk about our revised Prugraman Salappe.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Governor Josh. I'd just like to welcome the media here. It's so nice to see you guys face to face and not just over Zoom, because I think we get a lot more meaningful communications with face to face. So thank you again for coming to this press conference. And I just want to echo Lieutenant Governor's comments about our families struggling. This pandemic has really impacted us in various ways. We have lost loved ones. We have been scared. We have been anxious about uncertainties for the last 2 years. We have seen our economy impacted gravely. We are also seeing jobs lost, and we see our people whose income have shrunk. We are working very diligently to go back to some economic recovery, as we are now focusing in that direction. Initially, when the pandemic started, we were more concerned about the health of our people, and we were more concerned about saving lives, and rightfully so. And so we feel we have contained and maintained this god-awful virus. And I just want to thank the people of Guam for their cooperation and for their adherence and for their understanding and their patience as we work through this pandemic. I am seeing a close transition from pandemic to endemic. Our hospital admissions and our ICU levels of care admissions is way down. And so that is a very strong metrics that we use throughout making our decisions. So we see constantly the rise in oil prices. I just want to tell you, I have no control over the rise of oil prices. It's influenced by many things, and now it's being influenced more so during this Ukrainian conflict with Russia. And those are the kind of global factors and sources that occur, which here we are experiencing the brunt of that. But what I can do is I can help our people in some kind of cash relief or some kind of assistance to help them in their increase of expenses as a result of goods and services rising. So we have decided to implement or expand what was once established as the Prugraman Salappe. And it was established on May 5th, 2020 as a disaster relief program to provide families with assistance for their emergency needs. Most of you are recipients of this federal assistance distributed by us in terms of working with DOA and working with public health. So we are very cognizant of the income eligibility that some of these federal assistance require. So at that time, eligible applicants were based on households whose gross monthly income is equal to or less than 165% of the federal poverty level. At the time, eligibility was federally restricted to the most vulnerable. For example, a household of 4 would only be eligible if their gross monthly income did not exceed $3,541. Data at the time showed that the program would cover more than 18,000 households, representing 55,000. That was our first Prugraman Salappe, funded by the CARES Act. At that time, we did not have vaccines. At that time, we were still really very uncertain about what the evolution of this virus is. There were no treatments. Testing was limited. But we did see the effect of this virus in the economy. And as a result, we then locally established this Prugraman Salappe. So now here we are, still suffering from this pandemic and still struggling. Although I have to say, jobs have been created, jobs have been established, jobs have been opened. As you can see, retails are open, our restaurants are open, our construction industry never closed. Military construction is on the rise. We have a lot of federal government expenditures, and you've seen a lot of military spending around. We are hopeful that the tourism industry will recover by summer or the end of this year. Because globally and worldwide, we are seeing better data in relation to this Omicron pandemic. So on February 22nd, 2022, our administration reactivated the Prugraman Salappe. What we want to do is provide $300 in direct cash to qualifying households. And we have expanded eligibility requirements in the hopes of reaching out a better safety net for our people. And also in the hopes of supporting many working families as possible and as much as we can. This requires us adhering to some federal rules and guidelines to qualify assistance based on household size and income. And in light of this, we work to increase eligibility as much as possible. So now with the Prugraman Salappe, people will be eligible to households whose monthly income is equal to or less than 300% of the federal poverty level. Now, a household of 5 will be eligible if their gross monthly income does not exceed $95,000, and if a family of 4 does not exceed $91,440. There will be a table that the Department of Administration will be using as a guide. Oh, okay, there is a table. I also want to thank Ed Burns, the director of the Department of Administration, and Bernie, deputy director, for quickly stepping up to this task. They realize also that what the struggles of our people are feeling. And they have expeditiously reopened this Prugraman Salappe and expanded it. Applications will start being accepted on March 15th, which would be next week, Tuesday. You would have to apply and they would have to determine your eligibility. But I just want to emphasize again that we have increased the eligibility to 95,000 income of a household of that does not exceed a household of 5 will be eligible if their gross monthly income does not exceed 95,000. And that's what you see up there. So I just want to thank the media and thank you. And if you could, in your own professional responsibility, spread this message out to our people so they can participate and take advantage of this assistance that we again are providing to the people of Guam. I just want to say that this administration, Leon Guerrero, Tenorio administration, has been very sensitive to the needs of our people, not just our individual people and residents, but also to the business community, because we all have to work together and we all have to help each other. And as a government, we step up to the plate to make sure that we can provide the public services that you need in order for us to get over this, I think, temporary situation with our economic circumstances. I also want to just say that there are other federal programs and grants that are ongoing that people can take advantage of. For example, the SNAP program, General Assistance Program, Child Care Services Programs, and other various public service ongoing grants and programs that can help our businesses. Our LEAP program is one. Our ERA program, which provides rental assistance and provides utilities payment assistance to people that are eligible for those programs. So I just want to say that as your governor and on behalf of the lieutenant governor, we are working diligently to try and contain this pandemic, along with the partnership of public health, along with the partnership of the Guam Memorial Hospital, the Guam Regional Medical Center, and all the various healthcare frontline heroes that have been out there saving lives and treating people, vaccinating people, testing them. So as a community, I am very thankful for all of you, for all that you've done to help us be safe on our island. Sizus Masi.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for your remarks. At this time, I'd like to give the floor to either Director Byrne or Deputy Guinness to further add on to what Governor and Lieutenant Governor have stated.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. As the Governor said, we recognize the urgency in getting these payments out. And I'll ask the Director to go through, the Deputy Director to go through the timeline in a few minutes. But we're going to pay out these amounts both by electronic transfer and by check. Those that want electronic transfer will obviously get it much quicker, but we are going to use the also the new style form of checks that those of you who saw the unemployment payments come out, those were the new style checks, and we're going to use them for this purpose because they're much quicker to print and get into the mail. So we're really looking to get these payments in people's hands as soon as we can. And perhaps you go through the time frame that we expect to be able to do that.
So basically, we expect to launch this program this coming Tuesday, March 15th. The online application and the hard copies would be available at that time. We've worked in conjunction with the mayor's offices to provide hard copies to them. So the community can go ahead The website will be launched, the website and the online application will be launched again on Tuesday. Individuals can apply then. So there's some basic criteria that needs to be met prior to the individual or the household to be qualified. Basically, what would be needed is that the individual or the applicant must reside on Guam for a minimum of 6 months. Secondly, the household income must meet again the criteria which is presented, right? And then there's some required documents that is being asked. So for identity, we are asking for some, for driver's license, a copy of or for your passport. Also, we are requesting for the social security information of the individuals in your household. Thirdly, we are also looking at to determine the household income. We are looking at pay stubs, employment verifications, also maybe gross receipt tax. And if not, because of certain circumstances, we are looking into allowing for self-attestations for the income. So again, simply put, we are going to be accepting the applications on Tuesday. It'll be launched. They can go into our website, www.goa.guam.gov. There is also an email address and phone numbers there that will be presented on the website. So again, come Tuesday, please apply. And again, this is the 300 one-time cash assistance to the community for those who are eligible.
Thank you, Rainey. Thank you, Director Byrne, and thank you, Deputy Guinness. I'd now like to open the floor to members of our media for questions. We'll go ahead and start with Content News' Ken Leon Guerrero. Ken, do you have any questions for our panel?
Yes, I do. This $300, is that per qualified individual or is that per household?
It's per household.
Okay, and what is the cost of this program projected to be at this time based on the number of, I mean, we know on the last report we saw from BBMR that 70% of the households are making less than 50,000. And that I haven't seen the 2020 census, but based on the 2015 estimate, we were at 45,000 households. So.
Yes, you're right. And we've never done this before. And so we're looking at an unknown population. But our first estimate is it's going to cost somewhere between 18 and 22 million.
Okay. And when do you expect to close the application process?
The last day for applications to be accepted would be April 15th. The issuance of the cash assistance will be 14 days after the applicant is deemed eligible. But that's our number.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ken. We'll come back to you later. KUAM's Nestor Lecanto. Nestor?
Yes, thank you, Chris, and hello, everybody. So since ARP funding was fully allocated, which of the current allocations will be tapped for this 18 to 22 million?
So, Nestor, what we're looking at, although the monies have been allocated, it's also very fluid because as a result of the infrastructure bill, we may be able to fund projects related to utilities or related to infrastructure. And so that can free up some of our ARP allocated money. There is also, as in any budget, people sometimes use their full allocations, sometimes they don't. We are looking at areas that might provide these funds through the funds that are allocated for the quarantine facility because we have tapered down our quarantine facility. And therefore, there's maybe some expenses there that may not necessarily be expense, and we could put into this program. So, like I said, it's fluid, the allocations, and it's being used for budgeting purposes, but we also have the ability to move monies around based on what circumstances and based on what the needs are, and based on projects that we could, again, use other sources of federal monies to fund. Do you want to add anything to that?
Thank you, Governor. I think what the governor is emphasizing that this ARP allocation is fluid. You know, it was meant to cover 2 years and be spent in 4. No allocation can be so tight and strict that we can't see the need to reallocate where necessary.
Okay, second question is, so when news of the reinstatement of the Prugraman Salappe came out, and then the amount was known, $300, we got a lot of comments that that's like 2 trucks in less than 2 weeks. That's gone. Would you consider increasing the amount at any point?
And I think that's dependent on what funding sources are available. But, you know, we're never, you know, Nestor, we have always been never close to anything. If we are going to, we look at what the needs are, we look at what the priorities are. We look at what has to be done there to help our people. And yeah, we're concerned about the gas prices because you probably know that it's probably not going to go down soon anytime with what's going on in with Russia and Ukraine and sanctions that are being imposed. And, you know, President Biden's talking about using their reserve also to kind of help decrease the cost of the oil prices. But we are looking for long-term solutions and how we can decrease the cost of transportation. And one of them is we are beefing up our public transportation so people can feel that it is reliable, on time and on schedule, so that maybe people will use public transportation more to take them to work or to take them to school or to take them for their groceries. So that's one area that I am focusing with GRTA to try and develop that much more expansively so there is a reliable public transportation. But again, in your answer of whether we will consider it, we have always been an administration that we put our people's needs and struggles first, and always have been able to provide some necessary relief. We are hoping that, you know, people will apply for jobs that are out there. We are hoping that people will go to boot camps that are available at GCC to provide the skills that is being asked for in construction, in SRF, in the medical field. So there's a lot of factors that we need to think about in this whole scheme. But want you to know that our administration has always been very, very keen on helping our people and putting the money into the hands of our people.
All right, thank you. I'll defer to the next round.
Thank you, Nestor. Lou Leon Guerrero, Guam Daily Post.
Governor, the last couple of times that there were direct financial assistance, there were some bottlenecks at government agencies, whether it was picking up applications or submitting applications. I wanted to kind of understand why we're going through an application process again. Is it not possible or feasible for the Department of Revenue and Taxation to identify these taxpayers within their records?
Yeah, but this is really a Prugraman Salappe that's under the Department of Administration's oversight. And the Department of Administration has the information to begin with. So the bottleneck is, it's unfortunate, but it does happen, and we try to work it through as fast as we can. You saw that with PUA, and you saw that with our EIP, and you saw that with our ERA and our Prugraman Salappe also in the beginning. So we're not going by taxpayers' identity only because I think the federal guideline says we have to do it with the eligibility in using ARP monies has to be followed. And the guidelines say that if we are going to be applying ARP monies, it has to show proof that the individuals have been affected through the pandemic and that we are focusing on the most needed individuals. And so we felt that using the income poverty level of 95,000 and above, and of a household of 5 and above, is, I think, expanding it as much as we can to provide the assistance to much more needed moderate income, low income people. Do you have anything to add to that, Ann, or Brent?
Well, obviously, you made reference to some bottlenecks. In accordance with what we just were talking about, we're going to do our very best to make sure that any bottlenecks, if there are any, are reduced. For each program, we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot through the RA and HAF programs about how to avoid bottlenecks. So we're really expecting that the arrangements that we're putting in place will alleviate most of those. And as to the question about the households, DRT's records are generally taxpayer records, not household records. And that's why we're asking for people to apply, because this information, other than the information we had in the first Prugraman Salappe, this information isn't held anywhere.
Just to revisit Nestor's question, I do understand that there's enough money left in the ARP to accommodate this additional expense, but I just wanted to understand if there was a decision, which CIP, other program or initiative outlined in the allocation will be reduced, if that's been decided yet.
It's not necessarily that it is going to be reduced, Phil. It's going to be just maybe shifted to other funding sources that are available. For example, in the infrastructure bill, there's monies there for cybersecurity and broadband. And we have allocated money in the ARP for broadband. And so we're gonna look and see if maybe that amount can be shifted over to infrastructure. Additionally, we've allocated money for infrastructure in those areas that do not have water and sewer. And maybe we can shift the funding from ARP to infrastructure, because we're getting, $96 million over a 5-year period just for water, safe drinking water, sewer, infrastructure, utilities, and so forth. So that's what we are doing creatively, so that we can free up some of these monies. Yeah.
I just wanted to add, though, that the first one, months ago when the allocation was made, the posture for quarantine was much more strict than it is now, based on all the treatments and the experience we have with the virus. So there was a significant amount of money that had been allocated to pay for quarantine facilities, and I would say that would be top of the list.
Thank you, Phil. PNC, CJ, do you have any questions?
Yes, so hello. Sorry, I lost my notes. So not very notes. So you mentioned that you are trying to work on GRTA to help them fund public transportation. But what is the relationship that the rising cost of gas, especially considering that President Biden yesterday announced that we're stopping all imports from Russian oil, and we currently have 90 unused oil trust whatever's. How will that affect public transportation because rising cost of gas?
So one of the things that we're looking at, CJ, is buying electric buses. And we are actually already discussing that. We're discussing on how we can stand up infrastructure for electric buses. And so we already have in the hoppers research and development in purchasing electric buses.
And do you have a timeline for that? Because I also yesterday, Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary, said that, of course, we want to no longer have to pay for these prices. We would stop our reliance on oil, period. So do you have a timeline for that, or is it?
Yeah, my timeline was yesterday, actually. Yeah. So we're working as urgently as we can. I was just back from a conference on infrastructure bill. And one of the strong points made is just what you said, looking at ways where we can use alternative means of transportation that would not require purchasing of gas, because the oil prices are very volatile. And so I came back and I am encouraging the Department of Public Works also to buy electric school buses. I am very excited that there are electric cars out there from various car dealers that are being purchased. I do know that production of these electric vehicles is voluminous. People are going towards electric vehicles. And so that's another consideration to make in terms of the supply chain for these electric vehicles and these electric buses. I know that in the state of Michigan, that I think it was GM or one other company, that they are opening electric vehicle plants to just do that. And so it's creating jobs, it's creating more opportunities. It's going to create cleaner environment, all that. I was excited about it. I actually drove one when I was there. And the one I drove was a Revlon truck, and its capacity and its battery is 300 miles before charging. I mean, we're only 30 miles long. So that's also going to be a benefit for us in terms of the life of batteries and how often we charge them. And do we really need to have a lot of charging stations? Those are all have to be factored in. And I know that GRT is developing a plan for that.
And just one last question. This is for C57's Tony Lamarena. He wants to know why Prugraman Salappe has a short, quote unquote, short application period. And he says his comments is that many people may be missed, just like with the All Rights program.
It's a month application period.
It's actually a month. And then, so what we'll do is, we'll go out to the media and really announce it and advertise that it is available. We are, like I said, we are working with the mayor's office to put the hard copies there. It'll be on our website. We are putting our media campaign together in the next few days. So we're going to be out there and we're going to be advertising it definitely.
What we've seen in all of these programs is that usually the first week or the first 2 weeks is when big, applicants, a lot of applicants come. And as we move on towards the deadline, it tapers off. And so during that period, we will continue to announce and remind people of the deadline.
I believe that's called, just for Tony Lamarena, that's called a temporal landmark. There's a lot of research behind it. It's just that people tend to apply at the very beginning because it's a temporal landmark.
Yeah.
Thank you, CJ. PDN, Dana Williams.
Hi, my question is, originally in the original press release that announced this program, it said that it would be $100 a month for 3 months. Is it $100 a month for 3 months when people apply, or they apply for a one-time $300 payment?
It's a one-time $300 payment.
Okay. Second question, just another technical question. By raising the eligibility from 165% of the federal poverty guidelines to 300%, what percentage of the population of Guam do you estimate you're going to be reaching with this program?
Well, we're thinking, Dana, that we would go from 18,000 households to about maybe 60,000 households. So I don't know what percentage is that, but it's certainly a big jump.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. We're going to go back around for another round of questions from our media. Ken, do you have any questions?
Yes, considering the fact that any plans to improve mass transit are going to take years, because just ordering a bus, you're looking at 24 months. For ordering a standard bus, ordering an electric bus, I imagine is going to take longer. So if we're looking at, a year and a half to 24 months from the time you order the new buses until they get here, what are you going to do in the meantime to improve mass transit now? Because $300 is going to provide the average person with about 5 tanks of gas.
So what we're doing to improve mass transit is we're hiring more bus drivers. We have taken all of that operations in-house. We have new buses. You can see them online. Already transporting people. We have been reliable in terms of schedule times and being there on scheduled times. So what we're going to do is because we also can have added 10 more buses into our fleet, we will be able to do more frequent stops out there. So we're improving and automating our monitoring of our buses. We are improving in the training of our bus drivers. We are also improving in automation and making sure that we are reliable. We are also improving in marketing that out into our people so that they are aware of our scheduled times.
Are you considering the possibility of waiving the fees during the pandemic to encourage more people to ride the bus?
I don't know if we're considering waiving. I haven't discussed that, but we certainly have discounted fees and fares, for example, veterans. We have discounted fees for individuals with disabilities. And I understand it's affordable fees.
Thank you, Ken. Nestor Lacanto, any further questions?
Yeah, just a couple. Governor, businesses are also taking a big hit, distributors, wholesalers, whoever delivers products, supplies, or travels to work sites, and they use typically those big gas guzzling vans and trucks. Today, California Governor Newsom proposed a tax credit for gas purchases, I guess similar to the very limited federal gas tax credit program. Is that something you would consider?
With tax credits, we need to be very careful because it does impact our general revenues also, Nestor, which we also need to run our public services, to provide safety, health, education, and so forth. But like I said, we are not an administration that doesn't think about all the other options possible, but we are also an administration that analyzes it and says what the consequences are and tries to weigh those out and balance it out. So I have not heard about Governor Newsom's tax credit for, what is it, for gases, you said?
Yes, for gas purchases.
Yeah, and we are always open to discussions of ideas that would help our people.
I just wanted to add, Nestor, that we're working very closely with the Guam Contractors Association. A few weeks ago, some legislation that we had drafted and was introduced in the legislature revised the weight limits for the roads. And we've had a kickoff meeting with the Department of Public Works and the Guam Contractors Association to promulgate the rules that are required by the statute. And the end result really is going to be additional capacity for these delivery trucks around town so we can try and reduce or hold down the cost of transporting the commodities around the island. So I think, there's different ways that we can try and affect the prices. In fact, another one that we're trying to work on is going to be a part of a bill signing we're having in the next hour, where we're going to allow GPA to go and refinance some of their bonds and get down their debt expenses so we could try and stave off the cost of energy. So I think, to your point, I think our administration is for sure definitely look at different ways to try and address this very complicated matter.
All right, thank you. Just one more question. Speaking of taxes, Governor, do you support eliminating the liquid fuels tax as is being proposed by Speaker Terlahi?
I don't know what the proposal exactly it is, but eliminating liquid fuel tax, I think will take about $15 million away from our fund revenues. And you have to remember that liquid fuel tax is the one that pays for highway improvements and so forth. So I have not seen it, Nestor. So I don't really want to make a position on it. I'd like to look at the, if it that going through the legislative process, a bill that starts in A could be a bill that ends in Z, which is totally different from the bill that started in A. So I don't want to make any position right now without looking at the final piece of legislation. But I am concerned of what that would do with the funds that would provide the monies for improving highways and roads.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Nestor. Lou Leon Guerrero, Guam Daily Post.
Governor, this is if I'm remembering correctly, this will be the third locally created direct financial assistance program that your administration has done. This is the second Prugraman Salappe in the RISE Act.
Yes. Oh, that's right. The RISE Act.
So given that a lot of the congressional pandemic funds at your discretion have another year and a half to go, what's the likelihood that you think there will be another direct financial assistance program for either individual residents or businesses, as you also have done before those funds expire?
Again, I need to look at what the circumstances are, Phil. That's the same question I think that Nestor was asking. And I don't want to make a commitment without really understanding and knowing what the circumstances are. But as you can see, that we do respond to the needs of our people, as evidenced by having 3 local programs that give direct financial cash assistance to our people. And it's not just our people, not just individuals, but also, again, I want to say we've put out about $110 million in assistance to our businesses, to our small businesses, because we do believe that businesses is the backbone of our government, right? They hire people, they create jobs, they provide services to our people. And all around, I think to work very closely with business partners to make our economy come back as we want it to be recovered as soon as we can is certainly within our strategic agenda. So we are putting the monies as much as we can out there into the hands of our people again. So again, I don't want to say yes and then it doesn't happen. People think it's going to happen, but I do want to say that, as you can see, we are very responsive to the struggles of our people by the amount of money that we have pushed out.
Similar to Nestor's question about tax policy positions, US Treasury did come out with their final guidance on ARP, and essentially they said as long as a tax cut or a tax credit doesn't result in a net reduction in overall tax revenue, ARP funds would be safe and not need to be repaid. I'm wondering if your administration has taken a look at what reductions or what maybe temporary freezing of taxes would be able to be afforded without that net reduction.
Well, we haven't really done any serious discussions around there, but I do know that the monies also cannot be used. I know that's one of the ineligible use of making up revenues as a result of tax deductions or tax cuts. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Last but not least, Danielle Baza, Candid News.
Hi, Governor.
I was looking around.
Hi. I just wanted to bring it back to Prugraman Salappe and ask you, so what exactly determines a household? Like, what if there are two residents of the same address that apply, but one, maybe they're roommates, would that disqualify them if they're from the same household?
Yeah, it would basically, the address would determine who or whoever applies first basically would get the funding, yeah. So it ties in with the address.
So what if they're roommates and they're in the same, they're in the same address, at the same residence, but they're separate households? Like if you ever apply for government assistance, they'll ask you, do you cook and prepare your meals separately? And that determines whether or not their income affects yours.
Mhm.
So.
Which
have you-
understood, yeah.
yeah.
And but basically how we put the program together is based on the household. So if you, again, and then we take a look at the individual and their income, and that's all identified on the application. Yeah, so it's all encompassing.
And have you considered, if someone is already on government assistance, whether that would automatically qualify them? Because obviously they have low income.
So those questions would be asked on the application, and more than likely it would, you know, so then at least we make
So
that
then they would still
determination.
need, okay, so they would still need all those supplemental documents that you're asking for?
If it'll be identified there, then you can just go ahead and put it, you just identify what your income would be. And then if you have, like, again, we made it pretty, we didn't want to make it too stringent where, certainly it's such a short program, a short time frame, right? But we also allowed for that self-attestation. So you would go ahead and put your information there of what your income would be. And if it is some public assistance, then you identify it as well.
I see.
I think I should, I would want to add that these income limits are very different from the income limits for most of the other programs. So that information may be new. So that's why we're asking for it on the form. And I think we've tried to keep the form as simple as possible in order that we can move it through the system as quickly as possible.
Thank you. That's what I was getting at. Also, so you were talking about your programs for your assistance programs for businesses, and they're supposed to help for relief through the pandemic, right? Because a lot of businesses have been failing. So what if a business was under 5 years old? Because a business under 5 years, it's still growing. And if they made more in 2020 than they did in 2019, would that disqualify them but they're still just growing?
I think they get us in charge of this program, Danielle, and I think they look at your GRT and they make a determination. It might be a determination that maybe they do still need help, but maybe not in a large sum of amount. So again, when you apply and they qualify you, they go through all of that information.
Thank you, Danielle, for those questions, and thank you to our panel. Again, for our listening audience, Prugraman Salappe will begin accepting applications. That's next Tuesday, March 15, 2022 through April 15, 2022. You can log on to doa.guam.gov for more information. That will conclude today's press conference. If you would like to tune in a little bit, we'll be back on our Facebook live stream for the bill signings for Bill 212